Welcome to this week's episode of the PTE Show. My name is Komal and I'm a lead instructor at Shoreway English. In this show, every week we talk about things that help you achieve a great score in your PTE exam. We share the latest PTE academic news, tips, tricks, practice questions, and answer any queries you might have. This week's episode, we have for you, first of all, 50 high quality read aloud practice questions. Next, we will discuss last week's essay topic solution and a new current topic for this week. Finally, we will talk about some of our latest PTE course offers. So stay tuned. Before we go on, remember to like the video and subscribe to the channel if you have not already done so. Let's get started with the 50 read aloud questions first.
Artificial intelligence, also machine intelligence, is intelligence displayed by machines, in contrast with the natural intelligence displayed by humans and other animals. In computer science, AI research is defined as the study of intelligent agents, any device that perceives its environment and takes actions that maximize its chance of success at some goal. Reason is the capacity for consciously making sense of things, establishing and verifying facts, applying logic, and changing or justifying practices, institutions, and beliefs. It is closely associated with such characteristically human activities as philosophy, science, language, mathematics, and art, and is normally considered to be a definitive characteristic of human nature. He also designed various mechanisms by which his program could become better. In what he called rote learning, the program remembered every position it had already seen, along with the terminal value of the reward function. This technique effectively extended the search depth at each of these positions. His programs re-evaluated the reward function based on input from professional games. Loss of wetland habitat threatens dragonfly populations around the world. Dragonflies are represented in human culture on artifacts such as pottery, rock paintings, and art jewelry. They are used in traditional medicine in Japan and China, and caught for food in Indonesia. They are symbols of courage, strength, and happiness in Japan, but seen as sinister in European folklore. Temperate regions have the majority of the world's population, which leads to large cities. There are a couple factors why the climate of large city landscapes differs from the climate of rural areas. One factor is the strength of the absorption rate of builds and asphalt, which is higher than natural land. Some environmental issues that affect southern Africa are water pollution, air pollution, land degradation, solid waste pollution, and deforestation. The environmental damage affects not only the population's health, but also the species that live in the area, while also contributing to the worldwide issue of climate change. The sun is the predominant source of energy input to the Earth. Other sources include geothermal energy from the Earth's core, tidal energy from the moon, and heat from the decay of radioactive compounds. Both long and short-term variations in solar intensity are known to affect global climate. The impact of monsoon on the local weather is different from place to place. In some places there is just a likelihood of having a little more or less rain. In other places, quasi-semi-deserts are turned into vivid green grasslands where all sorts of plants and crops can flourish. Baseball is a bat and ball game played between two teams of 9 players each, who take turns batting and fielding. The batting team attempts to score runs by hitting a ball with a bat swung by the batter, and then running counterclockwise around a series of 4 bases, first, second, third, and home plate. Popular culture or pop culture is the entirety of attitudes, ideas, images, perspectives, and other phenomena within the mainstream of a given culture, especially Western culture of the early to mid-20th century and the emerging global mainstream of the late 20th century. Heavily influenced by mass media, this collection of ideas permeates the everyday lives of the society. After graduating with a Bachelor of Fine Arts in Film in 1967, he tried joining the United States Air Force as an officer, but he was immediately turned down because of his numerous speeding tickets. He was later drafted by the Army for military service in Vietnam, but he was exempted from service after medical tests showed he had diabetes. The studio's system was challenged under the antitrust laws which sought to separate production from the distribution and exhibition and ended such practices. By 1954, with television competing for audience and the last of the operational links between a major production studio and theater chain broken, the historic era of the studio's system was over. Vertical integration and expansion is desired because it secures the supplies needed by the firm to produce its product and the market needed to sell the product. Vertical integration and expansion can become undesirable when its actions become anti-competitive and impede free competition in an open marketplace. Vertical integration is one method of avoiding the hold-up problem. The autocrat style negates any form of teamwork. The autocrat refuses to delegate authority, for fear of losing authority. With no new ideas or input, the organization gets stale and tired. The autocrat is worn thin doing everything since no one is allowed to assist, leading to a general sense of incompetence of the subordinates. The difference between individual controlled action and outcomes is best conveyed through an example. In a sales job, a favorable outcome is a certain level of revenue generated through the sale of something such as merchandise, or some service such as insurance. Revenue can be generated or not, depending on the behavior of employees. Another way to divide up performance is in terms of task and contextual behaviors. Whereas task performance describes obligatory behaviors, contextual behaviors are behaviors that do not fulfill specific aspects of the job's required role. Citizenship behaviors are defined as behaviors which contribute to the goals of the organization through their effect on the social and psychological conditions. An effect of drinking sports drinks with carbohydrates without prolonged exercise is weight gain. A study presented at the Obesity Society's Obesity 2012 scientific meeting found people in their teens gained 3.5 pounds over 2 years for every bottle of sports drink consumed per day. Human physiology seeks to understand the mechanisms that work to keep the human body alive and functioning, through scientific inquiry into the nature of mechanical, physical, and biochemical functions of humans, their organs, and the cells of which they are composed. A behavioral change can be a temporary or permanent effect that is considered a change in an individual's behavior when compared to previous behavior. It is often considered a mental disorder. This change is generally characterized by abnormal thinking, interpretations, emotions, or changing relationships. Medications can cause this change as a side effect. Depending on the region of North America, the terms snowball and snow cone may refer to different things. Where the distinction is made, the former refers to a dessert made of finely shaved ice like soft fresh snow, while the latter contains ground-up ice that is coarser and more granular and crunchy. During the Great Depression, popcorn was fairly inexpensive at 5 to 10 cents a bag and became popular. Thus, while other businesses failed, the popcorn business thrived and became a source of income for many struggling farmers. The snack was popular at theaters, much to the initial displeasure of many of the theater owners, who thought it distracted from the films. In general usage, the term steam engine can refer to either the integrated steam plants such as railway steam locomotives, or may refer to the piston or turbine machinery alone, as in the beam engine and stationary steam engine. Specialized devices such as steam hammers and steam pile drivers are dependent on the steam pressure supplied from a separate boiler. Water wheels have been used for hundreds of years for industrial power. Their main shortcoming is size, which limits the flow rate and head that can be harnessed. The migration from water wheels to modern turbines took about 100 years. Development occurred during the Industrial Revolution, using scientific principles and methods. The Gmail user interface initially differed from other webmail systems with its focus on search and conversation threading of emails, grouping several messages between two or more people onto a single page, an approach that was later copied by its competitors. Code golf is a type of recreational computer programming competition in which participants strive to achieve the shortest possible source code that implements a certain algorithm. Code golf should not be confused with size coding, a contest to achieve the smallest binary executable code. Playing code golf is known as golf scripting. A user of RSA creates and then publishes a public key based on two large prime numbers, along with an auxiliary value. Anyone can use the public key to encrypt a message, but with currently published methods, and if the public key is large enough, only someone with knowledge of the prime numbers can decode the message feasibly. The horizon or skyline is the apparent line that separates Earth from sky, the line that divides all visible directions into two categories, those that intersect the Earth's surface, and those that do not. At many locations, the true horizon is obscured by trees, buildings, mountains, etc., and the resulting intersection of Earth and sky is called the visible horizon. In the real case, a point at infinity completes a line into a topologically closed curve. In higher dimensions, all the points at infinity form a projective subspace of one dimension less than that of the whole projective space to which they belong. A storm is any disturbed state of an environment or astronomical body's atmosphere especially affecting its surface, and strongly implying severe weather. It may be marked by significant disruptions to normal conditions such as strong wind, tornadoes, hail, thunder and lightning, heavy precipitation, heavy freezing rain and strong winds. The rate at which the belt moves is the rate of walking or running. Thus, the speed of running may be controlled and measured. The more expensive, heavy-duty versions are motor-driven. The simpler, lighter, and less expensive versions passively resist the motion, moving only when walkers push the belt with their feet. The latter are known as manual treadmills. Deserts are formed by weathering processes as large variations in temperature between day and night put strains on the rocks which consequently break in pieces. Although rain seldom occurs in deserts, there are occasional downpours that can result in flash floods, and the resulting fragments and rubble strewn over the desert floor is further eroded by the wind. A rain shadow is a dry area on the leeward side of a mountainous area. The mountains block the passage of rain, producing weather systems, and cast a shadow of dryness behind them. Wind and moist air is drawn by the prevailing winds towards the top of the mountains, where it condenses and precipitates before it crosses the top. Central Asia has historically been closely tied to its nomadic peoples and the Silk Road. It has acted as a crossroads for the movement of people, goods, and ideas between Europe, Western Asia, South Asia, and East Asia. The Silk Road connected these lands with the people of Europe, India, and China. One common feature of skyscrapers is having a steel framework that supports curtain walls. These curtain walls either bear on the framework below or are suspended from the framework above, rather than resting on load-bearing walls of conventional construction. Some early skyscrapers have a frame that enables the construction of load-bearing walls taller than of those made of reinforced concrete. A gas balloon is a balloon that flies in the air because it is filled with a gas less dense than air or lighter than air, such as helium or hydrogen. It is tied to a thread to prevent it from flying up in the air. It is also sealed at the bottom to ensure that the gas doesn't escape. Donuts are usually deep-fried from a flour dough, and typically either ring-shaped or without a hole, and often filled. Other types of batters can also be used, and various toppings and flavorings are used for different types, such as sugar, chocolate, or maple glazing. Many varieties of fruit preserves are made globally, including sweet fruit preserves, such as those made from strawberry or apricot, and savory preserves, such as those made from tomatoes or squash. The ingredients used and how they are prepared determine the type of preserves. Generally, lower quality green teas are steeped hotter and longer, while higher quality teas are steeped cooler and shorter, but usually for multiple times. Steeping too hot or for too long results in the release of excessive amounts of flavor, leading to a bitter, astringent brew, regardless of initial quality. More recently, treadmills are not used to harness power, but as exercise machines for running or walking in one place. Rather than the user powering the mill, the machine provides a moving platform with a wide conveyor belt. The belt moves to the rear, requiring the user to walk or run at a speed matching that of the belt. In most countries, the academic year begins in late summer or early autumn and ends during the following spring or summer. In Northern Hemisphere, the academic year lasts from August, September, or October to May, June, or July. In Southern Hemisphere, the academic year aligns with the calendar year, lasting from February or March to November or December. Unlike the other pieces, pawns cannot move backwards. Normally a pawn moves by advancing a single square, but the first time a pawn is moved, it has the option of advancing 2 squares. Pawns may not use the initial 2-square advance to jump over an occupied square, or to capture. The Grand Slam tournaments, also called majors, are the four most important annual tennis events. They offer the most ranking points, prize money, public and media attention, the greatest strength and size of field, and greater number of best of sets for men. A destination resort is a resort that itself contains the necessary guest attraction capabilities, so it does not need to be near a destination to attract its patrons. A commercial establishment at a resort destination such as a recreational area, or other tourist attraction may compete with other businesses at a destination. The government stated that the aim of the project was to boost Singapore's tourism industry, which had been facing intense competition from other destinations around the region, particularly from nearby Bangkok and Hong Kong, which has since also considered legalization of casinos in the wake of initiatives in Singapore. Some countries define money laundering as obfuscating sources of money, either intentionally or by merely using financial systems or services that do not identify or track sources or destinations. Other countries define money laundering in such a way as to include money from activity that would have been a crime in that country, even if the activity was legal. Tax information exchange agreements provide for the exchange of information on request relating to a specific criminal or civil tax investigation or civil tax matters under investigation. This exchange of information on request was supplemented by an automatic process on the 29th of October 2014. The automatic process is to be based on a common reporting standard. Despite its descent from cakes and other sweetened breads, the cookie in almost all its forms has abandoned water as a medium for cohesion. Water in cakes serves to make the base as thin as possible, which allows the bubbles, responsible for fluffiness, to better form. In the cookie, the agent of cohesion has become some form of oil. There is considerable uncertainty about defining the difference between lakes and ponds, and no current internationally accepted definition of either term across scientific disciplines or political boundaries exists. For example, researchers have defined lakes as water bodies which can have wave action on the shoreline or where wind-induced turbulence plays a major role in mixing the water column. Snow develops in clouds that themselves are part of a larger weather system. The physics of snow crystal development in clouds results from a complex set of variables that include moisture content and temperatures. The resulting shapes of the falling and fallen crystals can be classified into a number of basic shapes and combinations thereof. When production was industrialized, baking was automated by machines in large factories. The art of baking remains a fundamental skill and is important for nutrition, as baked goods, especially breads, are a common and important food, both from an economic and cultural point of view. A person who prepares baked goods as a profession is called a baker.
So how did you go? Hope you found the exercise useful. Let us know in the comments. Now let's look at the solution to last week's practice topic. Last week's topic was Melbourne Cup is a public holiday in the state of Victoria. Some people think this is a waste of public money and resources. Do you agree or disagree with this? Support your position with examples from your own experience. I hope you read about Melbourne Cup Day and used it not just practice your English skills but also learn about Australian culture. You will find a link to the essay solution in the video description below. This week, we will look at the high living costs in Australian cities. Some people think that because of this, living in a small town or village is much better. Others feel that the good life in cities makes up for the high cost of living. So your essay topic for the week is: the last few decades have seen huge increase in the cost of living in Australian cities. Because of this, a large number of people now prefer to live in a small regional town. Do you think the high cost of living in Australian cities is justified? Would you prefer to live in a big city or a small town? Support your answer with relevant examples from your own experience. Read on this topic, Google for that, have a discussion with a friend on this topic, watch some YouTube videos, and then write a good essay. This way, you will practice all your language skills. With that, we are almost at the end of this episode. Before we go, if you want the best resource for your PT preparation, check our course link in the video description. You will also find a discount coupon in the video description. Remember to hurry because the discount is only available for the next 2 days. Alright, with that, we come to the end of this episode. I hope you learned a lot and also enjoyed it. Take care and I will see you next week. Bye.